in the 12-day-old labor dispute. Negotiators from the Times, the drivers' union, and an independent wholesaler hammered out the details. Several incidents of violence and vandalism marred that strike. Tonight's announcement is welcome news for everyone involved.
We are optimistic that this agreement will be ratified by the membership, and we are prepared to work on behalf of the ratification of that agreement.
Details of the agreement will be presented to union members before it's made public. The strike was sparked by disputes over wages and benefits for union drivers. Jay?
A labor dispute. The trouble started when more than 200 union drivers were fired by the new owners of a suburban wholesale company. There was occasional violence as union drivers tried to stop delivery of the New York Times. Negotiators aren't releasing the details of the agreement, but they say they're confident it will be ratified.
We believe that in several key areas, the new agreement represents a substantial improvement over the agreement that was rejected by the membership.
Union drivers are expected to vote on the proposal on Thursday.
Hired to replace union workers was critically injured today. 27-year-old union driver Robert Boyle was arraigned today on felony assault charges. He's accused of throwing a rock at two replacement drivers last night. One of them, 50-year-old Gary Money, has a fractured skull. The union says it does not condone violence.
As far as bodily harm, it's a job. As far as people getting hurt, that's not condoned by the union, by the membership, the NMDU, by anybody involved in this.
That dispute began 2 weeks ago when union drivers rejected a contract recommended by its leadership and the drivers were fired. Newspaper delivery has not been disrupted since the first days of that situation.
Of violence in the driver strike so far. Robert Boyle is accused of rock throwing at an attack last night against a busload of replacement Times workers, and it happened in the New Rochelle delivery depot. Police say two people were injured, one of them critically. The Times dispute's been going on since May 7th when union drivers rejected a contract recommended by its leadership. And today, a federal judge signed a $100,000 judgment against the union, and that stems from the May 11th contempt order that he imposed. No comment so far from the union.
Still ahead today.
They want amnesty for anyone arrested. And now the violence has gotten a lot worse. Kurt Mack reports.
What? 27-year-old Robert Boyle is the latest newspaper driver arrested in the bitter 2-week-old labor dispute between the drivers' union and the Imperial Delivery Service. The dispute has cut the number of New York Times newspapers delivered to Westchester in Long Island. Boyle allegedly threw a rock through the windshield of a truck being driven by a replacement driver. 50-year-old Gary Money's skull was fractured. He remains in critical condition following surgery. A second driver suffered minor injuries. This is not Boyle's first arrest. He was picked up on the first day of the strike while picketing. Since the court didn't have records of that arrest, he's been held over for arraignment.
The defendant, Robert Boyle, was charged this morning with assault in the second degree. That's a Class D felony. If the condition of the victim should change sometime over the weekend in that he should pass away, we would reconsider new charges against him, and we'd have to evaluate it then.
There have been other violent incidents and acts of vandalism at plants in New Rochelle and on Long Island. Delivery trucks have been a frequent target, and the union is now saying it won't agree to any contract unless the company guarantees amnesty for arrested drivers. The Times, meanwhile, has gone to court seeking contempt sanctions against the union, and security has been beefed up outside Imperial's plants, too.
Basically, I just want to get back to work, and with a decent salary, and don't give up nothing.
Robert Boyle will be held at the Westchester County Jail until Tuesday. Meantime, negotiations between Imperial and the drivers have broken off. One union member tells me he feels the violence on the picket line can only get worse. In New Rochelle, Kurt Mack, Fox 5 News.
If you have friends charged with felony assault in a rock-throwing incident in New Rochelle last night, a replacement driver was critically injured when a rock fractured his skull. Now, that dispute began 2 weeks ago when union drivers rejected a new contract and were fired. Dana?
A story rocks on the picket line. A replacement driver is in critical condition after being hit in the head with a rock, allegedly by a union driver. The replacement drivers were hired more than 2 weeks ago after union members turned down a contract offer.
The court will decide whether the Times Delivery Union should be held in contempt. The union has been accused of sporadic violence since the labor dispute erupted May 7th. A tentative contract was scuttled last week, and now lawyers for the delivery service are asking a judge to hold the union in contempt for disobeying a court order to deliver the paper.
this holiday
closed behind me, and they are tallying the votes right now as we speak. Members of the Newspaper Drivers Union began voting on a new contract to settle the dispute with a newspaper wholesaler and the New York Times at 9 o'clock this morning. They've been voting all day long. Once again, there are lots of union members standing around me right now, but the vote has not come down just as yet. As soon as we find out what that vote is, we will bring that to you live. Jason Carroll reporting live from the union headquarters. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Jason.
We understand that a vote has just come down, so let's switch back now to Jason Carroll, who's standing by at union headquarters. Jason?
Connie, there's a lot of handshaking going on out here tonight. The vote came down just a few moments ago, ending a 3-week-old labor dispute. The new contract passed. 932 votes for, 450 votes against. Members of the Newspaper Drivers Union began voting on a new contract to settle the labor dispute between a newspaper wholesaler, Arthur Imperatore, and the New York Times at 9 o'clock this morning. Here's what the president of the Newspaper Mail Delivery Union had to say about the vote and Arthur Imperatore.
We're glad to be going to work. If he treats our people fairly and correctly, he won't have a problem in the world. If he looks to hurt our people and destroy our living and having a family, we'll do whatever we have to do to protect our way of life. That's what we're going to do, okay? So it belongs to him. We didn't throw him in the street. He threw us in the street. Now we're back in. We're going back in with our heads up and with dignity. If we're treated correctly, we'll respond correctly. And if we're treated improperly, we'll respond correctly to that also, sir. Okay?
Some of our viewers may remember this vote follows a violent labor dispute a few weeks back. Trucks passing the picket line were burned, rocks and bottles were thrown, and there was one case of an alleged kidnapping, but this vote should be what it takes to mend those wounds and put drivers back to work. Jason Carroll reporting live from union headquarters. Back to you, Cotty and Marvin.
Okay.
Thank you, Jason, for that.
Printing plant that's going to open in Edison, New Jersey. The union gave some concessions to management in return for job guarantees.
Of the paper. The 3-week dispute erupted into violence several times and disrupted some deliveries of the paper.